Welcome back. The Iowa caucuses are in the books. Donald Trump is the winner, no matter how much the other campaigns are trying to spin it. And now all eyes turn to New Hampshire. But let's talk about the state of the race with my guest tonight. You know the guy on the left, former HHS official and GOP strategist Jack Kalavritinos. I like that. I like that. Like, you know, the love boat move there. Yeah. And this guy is the former head of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and ex-Mitch McConnell aide Neil Chatterjee. Both up late with me tonight here on the Final Five. Welcome in.
Thanks for having us.
Good to see you both. All right, so as you were watching all this last night, Jack, it ended quickly. The winner was declared very promptly, so where does it go from here?
I mean, it technically goes to New Hampshire, but we were talking a little bit. I mean, I just think it's over. It is hard to see how either Haley or DeSantis can find a way to do this. I mean, you've got South Carolina where Haley is from, and yet she's, you know, far, far behind. And so I just think it's over. And, you know, no spin, as you said, no spin can change the fact that it was a blowout and he's now marching towards victory.
A lot of people were looking at the last days of this race and they were thinking, okay, maybe Nikki Haley would make the move to second. Would she solidify the second place? She certainly did not in the case in that last night. Was that a loss on her part, or did it show DeSantis defying expectations?
I think it showed a couple of things. I think it showed the strength of former President Trump. It showed that, you know, Haley wasn't able to get separation from DeSantis, and that's really what she needed. She didn't just need a second place. She needed to be within striking distance of Trump. She needed to be, I think, demonstrably ahead of DeSantis. She needed to really get this down to a one-on-one race versus former President Trump. Now we go to New Hampshire, still a three-person race. I think that's advantage Trump. But I think the bigger thing is Trump got over 50, and he won by 30 points. So we're kind of quibbling at the margins here. Even if Ambassador Haley had finished a solid second, I still think the significance of the former president's win, this thing's over.
So, I mean, some of the people who were looking at these numbers, and I'm looking at the analysis as well, they were saying, well, look, Trump got 51, 52%, which means you still had 48% of the Republican field voting in another direction. But you also have candidates, none of whom have really, Chris Christie was the only one who sort of tried to put daylight between him and the former president here.
I mean, we've sort of been saying that forever now. It seems like forever, for months. Yeah. Well, as many people are against him as are for him. But the fact is that it's going to come down to delegates. And I see zero chance for either of the other two, who are both fantastic people and did amazing jobs, in my opinion, as a Republican in their own states. I don't see how they can piece together the delegates to do it. You know, I think about how someone said that you've got the real deal in Trump, who was running for a second election, a second term, didn't get it. And now this is people's chance to give it back to him for the real deal versus sort of an imitation of him or a version of him. Both are good, but, you know, it's like Succession. Are you going to go for one of the kids when you can bring back, you know, the Papa Bear if he's, you know, coming back again?
He's the Logan Roy of the...
He's the Logan Roy of this race.
So the big, well, I wouldn't say the big news last night, but right afterwards, Vivek Ramaswamy, who like the day before was saying, I'm in this till November, said, I'm out of this race. But the difference was he was the first one to drop out and pretty much throw his support directly to Trump. Doug Burgum did too over the weekend here, but at that point, now you're starting to see the consolidation a bit. Yeah,
look, Vivek's challenge all along was that he was kind of Trump-light, right? I mean, he's really the succession model in that sense, and so any
the
support,
third child, yes.
Any support, he's Shiv. Any support that he was getting, you know, was going to go to Trump anyway. And what I think he was really in the race, not hoping, sorry, I want to be clear, thinking that if something were to happen and for some reason President Trump were ineligible for the election, he would stand to inherit his vote. But I actually think if you look at former President Trump's speech last night, the tone and tenor in which he went about it, kind of talking about how everyone performed well, sort of complimenting Governor DeSantis and Ambassador Haley. This is a guy who knows he's got the nomination sewn up. He's starting to position himself for the general. He's starting to work to consolidate that Republican support. You heard Ambassador Haley say, if he's the nominee, she'll support him. You heard Governor Reynolds of Iowa, who had endorsed Governor DeSantis, say, if he's the nominee, I'm going to support him. President Trump's starting to bring that support home.
Just wanted to build on that, because in a way, if he were able to continue that all the way through, which is sort of the posture he took after the terrible videotape that came out in, October of 2016, he then got on message for a full month and was great. Not videotape, but the Access Hollywood thing. If he's able to sort of be good Trump for the stretch that he showed last night, I mean, all bets are off in terms of independents, and a lot of the soccer moms that went for Biden, who are actually Republicans, might come home again. It's really, the ball is in his court, as well as some courts and some prosecutors as well.
Do you see, though, I mean, in that regard, is that where you see parallels to 2016? Because, again, there were people saying, you know, Trump, you know, every primary that you run to, you run to your base, you run to the planks, and then you try to move towards the center. Is that what we're seeing sort of shaking out here 8 years later after 2016?
Here's where I see the parallel to 2016. Donald Trump is incredibly lucky when it comes to getting opponents. In 2016, he ran against probably the most unlikable presidential candidate in American history, recent American history. And now he's running against a guy in President Biden who's sitting at like 33% of the polls. There's no sort of enthusiasm or excitement about him. And Trump's base is animated. Look, it was a really low turnout caucus yesterday in Iowa. It was so cold, everyone thought maybe low turnout that'll hurt Trump. He still won in a landslide because his folks would crawl through glass to vote for him. If he's got a significant enthusiasm gap heading into November, I think that's a big advantage for him, and it's just like 2016 in that regard.
Just about out of time. I want to give you the last word, Jack, because it was announced Nikki Haley said she was not going to debate if Trump wasn't involved. He decided, obviously, he's not going to debate. They've canceled the latest Republican debate. Is there anything lost or gained by not having that debate in New Hampshire?
I mean, not even at all. And he was not harmed in any way by not going. Look, a perfect world, it would have been good if he had been there. But people shouldn't assume that Joe Biden, actually, I'm just going to say this at the end, is going to be the nominee, because there's a decent chance that big donors and big people in the Democratic Party are going to see that weakness, see Trump's strengths, and maybe just maybe the superdelegates decide that Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama should be the person who's the nominee. So I know your Democratic consultants won't say it, but I'm going to say it, that there's at least a chance that that could happen.
Well, there's a lot that could happen, as we've learned, between the beginning of the primaries and the general. Got to leave it there. Neil, good to see you. Jack, thanks as always. Great to see you. I like it. I can dig that. You need to come up with something next time.
Better.
All right, that's it. Final Five is back right after this.